The alarm screamed through Ramstein Air Base at 0347 hours. In the barracks, young soldiers scrambled for gear, boots hitting linoleum in a chaotic symphony of confusion. This wasn't a drill. The emergency frequency crackled to life across every radio on base. 3 words that made blood run cold. Base under attack. In the armory, Sergeant First Class Alex Stone moved differently than everyone else. While others fumbled with magazines and tactical vests, his hands worked with surgical precision. No wasted movement, no hesitation. Muscle memory from a life most would never comprehend. Private Jenkins looked at him, eyes wide with fear. "Sergeant, what do we?" "Stay behind me," Alex said quietly, his voice calm as still water. "Do exactly what I say, nothing more." His tone carried a weight that made Jenkins's spine straighten instinctively. There was something in that voice. Something that didn't match the quiet, unremarkable sergeant they'd been mocking for months. 2 hours earlier, they had been laughing at him, calling him Old School Stone, making TikToks about his outdated methods. Now as gunfire cracked against the perimeter fence, that same sergeant was the only thing standing between them and death. But they still didn't know who he really was. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe to Military and Veteran Stories, so you never miss these true tales of courage. And tell us in the comments, where are you watching from today? The laughter had been sharp and cutting across the training yard that afternoon. The kind that echoed off the concrete barracks and made the target shrink just a little. Second Lieutenant Marcus Webb stood in front of his platoon, arms crossed, a smirk playing on his lips, as he gestured toward the figure in faded fatigues standing off to the side. "Gentlemen," Webb announced, his voice dripping with condescension, "this is Sergeant First Class Alex Stone. Command has assigned him to assist with our training." He made air quotes with his fingers. "But between you and me," he paused for dramatic effect, "I think someone in personnel made a mistake. This guy looks like he belongs in a history book, not a modern army base." The soldiers erupted. Phones came out immediately. Someone in the back row muttered loud enough for everyone to hear, "Okay, boomer." Another voice, "Sergeant, you know what TikTok is?" Laughter rippled through the formation like a wave. Alex Stone, 47 years old, didn't react. He just stood there, quiet, unremarkable, shoulders slightly hunched under the weight of a persona he'd carefully constructed over 8 months. His uniform was clean but worn. No combat patches visible on his right shoulder. No Ranger tab. No Special Forces insignia. Nothing that would draw attention or questions. Just ordinary. Webb stepped closer, lowering his voice just enough to create intimacy, but keeping it loud enough for the front row to hear. "Honestly, Stone, I don't know how you're still on active duty. I'm guessing admin screwed up your retirement paperwork." The younger soldiers snickered. A few pulled out their phones, recording what they thought would be comedy gold for their Instagram stories. Alex opened his weathered green notebook, scanning the day's training schedule. His eyes were calm, his posture humble. When he finally spoke, his voice was soft, almost apologetic. "Lieutenant, the training schedule calls for advanced marksmanship drills. I'll set up the range while you brief the platoon." Webb smirked. "Advanced marksmanship? Stone, these guys train with optics, thermoscopes, and laser designators. What are you going to teach them? How to aim with iron sights like it's World War II?" More laughter. Someone shouted, "Does he even know what a red is?" Alex didn't argue. He simply nodded. "I'll set up the range, sir." As he walked away, the mockery followed him like a shadow. "Old School Stone strikes again," one private whispered. "Guy probably thinks drones are science fiction," another added. What they didn't see was the way Alex's jaw tightened for just a fraction of a second, or the way his hand instinctively moved toward his chest, where beneath his undershirt hung 2 sets of dog tags. One set was regulation, standard issue, boring. The other set was hidden, worn smooth by 12 years of operations that officially never happened. On those hidden tags was engraved a single word that would have changed everything: Reaper. The range had been brutal. Alex set up targets at varying distances: 100 meters, 300 meters, 500 meters. Standard stuff. But when he suggested removing the optics and training with iron sights, Webb had laughed in his face. "Sergeant, we're not cavemen. We use technology now." Alex didn't push back. He just nodded and stepped aside, letting Webb run the show his way. The results were embarrassing. Out of 30 soldiers, only 4 hit the 300-meter target consistently. At 500 meters, nobody could maintain accuracy. Their reliance on technology had made them sloppy, dependent, fragile. Webb blamed the wind, the equipment, the ammunition, everything except the training. During a lunch break, Alex sat alone on a concrete barrier near the mess hall. He always ate alone. It was safer that way. Fewer questions, less attention. Private First Class Sarah Chun walked past, then hesitated. She was one of the few who hadn't openly mocked him. Curiosity got the better of her. "Sergeant Stone," she ventured carefully, "can I ask you something?" Alex looked up from his MRE, his expression neutral. "Sure, Chun. Those iron sight drills you suggested, why do you think they're important?" Finally, someone asking a real question. Alex set down his meal, considering his answer carefully. "Technology fails," he said simply. "Batteries die, optics break, electronics get fried by EMPs. But if you know the fundamentals, sight picture, breathing, trigger control, you can still hit your target with whatever you've got." Chun nodded slowly. "Where did you learn that?" For just a moment, something flickered in Alex's eyes. A shadow of a different life, different missions, different versions of himself that couldn't be spoken about in the light of day. "Here and there," he said quietly, closing that door as quickly as he'd cracked it open. Before Chun could ask more, Webb's voice cut across the yard. "Stone, quit socializing and get the afternoon range set up. Some of us have actual work to do." Alex stood without a word, dumped his trash, and headed back to work. Chun watched him go, a strange feeling settling in her gut. Something about Sergeant Stone didn't add up, but she couldn't put her finger on what. What none of them knew, what none of them could know, was that there was a file on Sergeant First Class Alex Stone. It sat in a vault at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. Classified. Eyes only. The kind of file that required TS/SCI clearance and a need-to-know basis just to acknowledge its existence. At Ramstein, nobody had that clearance. Not Colonel Briggs, not the intelligence officers, not even the base commander. So when they looked at Alex Stone, they saw exactly what the file allowed them to see. An aging NCO with an unremarkable service record, administrative positions, training roles, stateside assignments, the perfect camouflage of bureaucratic blandness. What they didn't see was the truth. 12 years with Delta Force, the Army's most elite Tier 1 unit, operations in places that didn't appear on maps, missions that would never appear in history books, a call sign that was only whispered in the darkest corners of the Special Operations community. Alex Reaper Stone. 47 confirmed high-value targets eliminated. 13 hostage rescue operations. 6 behind enemy lines extractions. A silver star that would never be publicly acknowledged. A career built in shadows and silence. He'd left Delta 3 years ago. Not because of age, not because of injury, but because after 12 years of living in the dark, he'd needed to see sunlight again. The Army had given him a choice: retire with full honors or take a quiet assignment somewhere he could decompress. Somewhere boring, somewhere safe. He'd chosen Ramstein. Training duty, paperwork, drills with kids who thought war was a video game. It was supposed to be peaceful, a way to fade into the background and remember what normal felt like. But muscle memory doesn't fade. Instincts don't retire. And when the alarm screamed through the base at 0347 hours, Alex Stone stopped being a quiet sergeant. He became Reaper again. The armory door burst open. A staff sergeant sprinted in, face pale. Perimeter breach. East Gate. Multiple hostiles armed with AKs and RPGs. MPs are down. We need. He stopped mid-sentence, staring at Alex. Sergeant Stone wasn't hunched anymore. His posture had changed entirely. Shoulders back, eyes sharp and calculating. hands moving with mechanical efficiency as he loaded magazines with a speed that defied logic. "How many?" Alex asked, his voice different now. Harder. Command voice. "At least 8 confirmed. Maybe more." They're heading for the fuel depot. Alex's mind raced through tactical scenarios in microseconds. Fuel depot meant they wanted to create chaos, trap personnel, maximize casualties. Classic insurgent playbook. He turned to the 30 terrified soldiers crowding the armory. "Listen up," he barked, and the room went silent instantly. Even Webb, who'd been fumbling with body armor, froze. "Jenkins, John Rodriguez, you 3 take position on the second-floor windows overlooking the east approach. Suppressive fire only. Don't try to be heroes. Just slow them down." They moved immediately, his tone leaving no room for debate. "Webb," Alex continued, locking eyes with the lieutenant, "take 10 men to the fuel depot. Set up a defensive perimeter. If they get past us, you're the last line." Webb opened his mouth to argue. Who the hell was this sergeant to give him orders? But something in Alex's eyes made the words die in his throat. "The rest of you, with me. We're going to the east gate." Private Morgan, barely 19, his voice shaking. "Sergeant, what's the plan?" Alex's expression was stone. "The plan is simple. We stop them. All of them. None of them reach the depot. But there's only—" "I said we stop them." The finality in his voice was absolute. The night air was split by gunfire. Alex moved through the darkness like a ghost, his soldiers struggling to keep up. While they stumbled over equipment and second-guessed every shadow, he flowed, predator instinct honed by 1,000 nights, just like this one. "Contact front," someone yelled as muzzle flashes erupted from behind a storage building. The young soldiers hit the dirt, firing wildly, panic taking over. "Ceasefire." Alex's voice cut through the chaos. "You're wasting ammo and giving away positions." He dropped to one knee, raised his M4, and fired 3 controlled bursts. 3 different positions, 3 targets down. In the span of 5 seconds, the soldiers stared. "How did you?" "Sound discipline," Alex said calmly, already moving to the next position. "Muzzle flash tells you where they are. Breathing tells you when to squeeze. Now move before they flank us." For the next 20 minutes, it was a masterclass in close-quarters combat. Alex didn't just fight. He orchestrated, positioning soldiers with precision, calling out threats before they materialized, anticipating enemy movement with an accuracy that seemed supernatural. Private Chun, pinned behind a concrete barrier, watched in awe as Sergeant Stone single-handedly cleared a building using techniques she'd only seen in special operations training videos. Door breaching, room clearing, angles of fire, immediate action drills. This wasn't a regular infantry sergeant. This was someone who'd done this so many times it was reflex. When an RPG streaked toward their position, Alex didn't freeze. He grabbed Jenkins and threw him behind cover a split second before the explosion tore through the fence line. "Stay down," he ordered, then popped up and dropped the RPG gunner with a headshot at 200 meters. Iron sights. No optic. First shot. Webb, monitoring from the fuel depot, keyed his radio with trembling hands. "Stone, what the hell are you?" When the last hostile went down, silence fell over the base like a heavy blanket. Alex stood in the middle of the east gate, breathing steady, not even winded. Around him, young soldiers sat in stunned disbelief, adrenaline slowly draining, reality setting in. They'd just survived. Because of him. Colonel Briggs arrived with a quick reaction force, expecting carnage. Instead, he found all 8 hostiles neutralized, 0 friendly Kia, and his training sergeant standing calm in the center of it all. "Sergeant Stone," Briggs said slowly, eyes scanning the scene. "Report." Alex gave a textbook brief. Positions, actions, outcomes. His tone was professional, detached, like he'd just finished a routine training exercise instead of a real firefight. Briggs studied him for a long moment. Then, quietly, "I'm going to need to make a phone call." 30 minutes later, a Black Hawk touched down on the tarmac. Out stepped a man in civilian clothes, no name tape, no rank. But every soldier on that base recognized authority when they saw it. This was someone from the shadowy world most of them would never access. He walked straight to Alex, who stood at attention. The man didn't salute. He just extended his hand. "Reaper," he said quietly. "Good to see you haven't lost your touch." The word hung in the air like a live grenade. Reaper. Webb, standing close enough to hear, felt his stomach drop. Chen pulled out her phone, fingers flying across the screen. 30 seconds later, her face went pale. "Oh my God," she whispered to the soldier next to her. "Reaper. Call sign Reaper. Delta Force Operator. 47 confirmed HVTs, Silver Star. That's him." The whisper spread like wildfire. Within minutes, every soldier on that base knew. The quiet sergeant they'd mocked. The old school guy they'd made TikToks about. The man they thought was washed up and irrelevant. He was a living legend. Colonel Briggs approached slowly, his face a mixture of respect and embarrassment. "Sergeant Stone." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "I owe you an apology. We all do." Alex shook his head. "No apology necessary, sir. I was doing my job." "Your job was training drills," Briggs said. "You just saved this entire base." Lieutenant Webb stepped forward, his earlier arrogance completely shattered. He came to attention, crisp and formal. "Sergeant Stone," he said, voice tight with emotion. I was wrong. About everything. I'm sorry." Alex met his eyes. No anger. No judgment. Just quiet understanding. "You're young, Lieutenant. You'll learn. Just remember, the most dangerous weapon in any fight isn't the equipment. It's experience." Webb nodded, then did something he never thought he'd do. He saluted. Not the lazy, perfunctory salute of daily routine, but a sharp, precise, heartfelt salute of genuine respect. And one by one, every soldier in that formation followed. 30 hands snapped to foreheads. 30 pairs of eyes locked on the quiet sergeant who'd proven that legends don't retire. They just go undercover. Alex returned the salute, his expression unreadable. But inside, for the first time in 3 years, he felt something shift. Maybe he didn't have to hide anymore. Epilogue, 1730 to 1800 hours. 3 days later, Sergeant First Class Alex Stone stood in front of a different formation. This time, they weren't laughing. They were listening. "Advanced marksmanship," he began, his voice carrying across the range, "isn't about technology. It's about discipline, fundamentals, the ability to adapt when everything goes wrong." He held up an M4 with the optic removed. "Today, we train with iron sights. Because one day, your scope will fail. Your battery will die. And the only thing between you and going home will be what you learned right here." Nobody complained. Nobody rolled their eyes. Private Chun raised her hand. "Sergeant Stone, will you teach us everything?" Alex allowed himself the smallest smile. "Everything I can, Chun. Everything I can." And for the first time since arriving at Ramstein Air Base, Alex Reaper Stone stopped hiding who he was. Because these soldiers, these kids who'd mocked him and learned from him, they deserved to learn from the best. And whether he liked it or not, that's exactly what he was. True strength doesn't announce itself. It doesn't demand recognition or wear its achievements on its sleeve. Sometimes, the most dangerous person in the room is the one nobody notices, until the moment they have to. Sergeant Alex Stone taught those young soldiers a lesson that no training manual could provide. Never underestimate the quiet ones. They've usually survived things you can't imagine. If this story moved you, salute in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe for more true military stories of valor and sacrifice. Until next time, stay strong, stay proud, and never forget those who serve in silence.